Keisha Williams was not the kind of girl who looked for trouble. She was quiet. She kept her head down. And she had learned a long time ago that sometimes the smartest thing you can do is stay invisible, but on her first day at Ridgemont High, she realized that staying invisible was not going to be easy. C. Keisha had just moved to this small town in Connecticut from Brooklyn, New York. Her mother had gotten a big promotion at her company, and they had to relocate. It was supposed to be a fresh start. A better life. Better schools? Safer streets. But as Keisha walked through those hallways on that Monday morning, she could feel the eyes on her. Every single pair of eyes. She was one of maybe 5 black students in the entire school. And in a town like this, that meant something. People noticed her. People stared. Some smiled politely. Others whispered to their friends the moment she passed by. Keisha pretended not to notice. She had dealt with worse. Her mother, Denise Williams, was a strong woman. She had raised Keisha on her own since she was 3 years old. And she had taught her daughter one important thing that Keisha never forgot. Baby, people are going to try to break you in this world. They're going to test you. They're going to push you. But you never let them see you crack. You hear me? You stay calm. You stay smart. And you handle things the right way. Keisha carried those words with her everywhere she went. They were like armor. On that first day, she found her locker, grabbed her books, and made her way to her first class. She sat in the back, kept her notebook open, and focused on the teacher. She did not try to make friends. She did not try to stand out. She just wanted to get through the day, and she almost did, but then lunch came. The cafeteria at Ridgemont High was exactly what you would expect. Long tables, loud conversations, groups of students broken up into their little worlds. The athletes sat near the windows. The theater kids had a corner by the vending machines. And right in the center of the room at the biggest table sat the girls who clearly ran this school. Keisha did not know their names yet, but she could tell who they were just by looking at them. Designer bags on the table. Perfect hair. Matching energy. They laughed loud, talked louder, and everyone around them either wanted to be them or was afraid of them. Keisha grabbed her tray and looked around for an empty seat. She spotted one near the back, away from the noise. A small table by the wall, perfect. She walked over, set her tray down, and sat. For about 2 minutes. Everything was fine. She started eating her food and pulled out her sketchbook. Drawing was her escape. It always had been. Whenever life got too heavy, she would open that book and disappear into her art, but then she heard the footsteps. Click, click, hi. Heels on the cafeteria floor. She looked up. 3 girls were walking toward her. The one in the middle had long blonde hair and a smile that looked more like a warning than a greeting. The 2 beside her looked like followers. The kind of girls who laughed at everything their leader said. Even when it was not funny, the blonde girl stopped right in front of Keisha's table and crossed her arms. "You're in my seat," she said. Keisha looked around. The table was completely empty except for her. "I didn't see a name on it," Keisha replied calmly. The blonde girl let out a short laugh. Not a real laugh. The kind of laugh that says, "I can't believe you just talked back to me." "I'm Tiffany," she said. "And this is our table? Has been for 2 years. So you're going to want to move." Keisha looked at her for a moment. She did not raise her voice. She did not roll her eyes. She just looked. "I'm almost done," she said quietly. "I'll be out of your way in a few minutes." Tiffany's smile disappeared. She was not used to this. She was used to people jumping up the second she gave an order. She was used to fear, respect, obedience. But this new girl? This girl she had never seen before? She was just sitting there, calm, unmoved. Tiffany leaned down, placing both hands on the table. "Let me make something clear," she said slowly. "I don't know where you came from, but here, at this school, you don't want to make enemies. Especially not with me." Keisha looked her right in the eyes. "I'm not trying to make enemies," she said. "I'm just trying to eat my lunch." For a moment, nobody moved. The tension at that table was thick enough to cut with a knife. Tiffany's 2 friends exchanged looks. A few nearby students stopped their conversations to watch, then Tiffany straightened up and smiled again. But this time the smile was cold. "Okay," she said sweetly. "Okay, enjoy your lunch, new girl." She turned and walked away, her heels clicking against the floor. Her friends followed. Kaisha watched them go. She did not feel relieved. She knew that look. She had seen it before. That was not the end of anything. That was the beginning. The rest of the day passed without incident. Kaisha went to her classes, took her notes, and stayed out of everyone's way. But she could feel it. The whispers, the glances. Word had already spread. The new girl stood up to Tiffany Price. By the time Kaisha got home that evening, she was tired. Not just physically, but mentally. She dropped her bag by the door and sat down on the couch. Her mother came out of the kitchen, still wearing her work clothes. "Hey, baby. How was your first day?" Kaisha shrugged. It was fine. Denise sat down next to her daughter. She knew that look. She had raised this girl for 16 years. She could read her like a book. "What happened?" she asked softly. Kaisha was quiet for a moment. Then she told her mother everything. The stairs, the cafeteria, Tiffany, all of it. When she finished, Denise nodded slowly. "So, what are you going to do?" she asked. Keisha looked at her mother. "I'm going to do what you taught me," she said. "Stay calm. Stay smart. And if they come for me again, I'll be ready." Denise smiled and put her arm around her daughter. "That's my girl." That night, Kaisha opened her notebook and started a new page. She wrote down the date. She wrote down what happened. She described Tiffany and her two friends. She noted the time, the location, and the exact words that were said. She did not know if she would ever need this information. She hoped she would not. She hoped Tiffany would leave her alone and they could both go on with their lives. But something in her gut told her this was not over, and Kaisha Williams always trusted her gut. She closed the notebook, turned off her light, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow was another day. And whatever it brought, she would be ready, because one thing was certain. She was not going to let anyone break her. Not here. Not ever. The next few weeks at Ridgemont High were exactly what Kaisha expected. Tiffany Price did not forget what happened in that cafeteria. And she made sure Kaisha knew it. It started small. Little things that most people would not even notice. Kaisha would walk down the hallway, and Tiffany's group would suddenly go quiet. Then, the moment she passed, they would burst into laughter. Loud, obvious, like they wanted her to hear. In class, someone bumped her desk hard enough to knock her pencil to the floor. When she looked up, they just shrugged and smiled. "Oops, my bad." At lunch, no matter where Kaisha sat, someone from Tiffany's circle would take the seat right next to her and start talking loudly about people who don't belong here and charity cases from the city. Kaisha never responded. She just kept eating, kept drawing in her sketchbook, kept her face neutral, but inside she was paying attention to everything. One afternoon, Kaisha was at her locker getting her books for the next class. She heard footsteps behind her and did not even have to turn around. She already knew who it was. "Hey, new girl." It was Tiffany's voice. Sweet on the surface, but sharp underneath. Kaisha closed her locker and turned around slowly. Tiffany was standing there with her two friends. One of them, a girl with red hair named Courtney, was holding her phone up. The other, a tall girl named Bethany, had her arms crossed and a smirk on her face. "We just wanted to welcome you properly," Tiffany said. "Since you've been here for a few weeks now and still haven't learned how things work." Kaisha said nothing. She just looked at them and waited. Tiffany stepped closer. "See, I've been asking around about you, trying to figure out who you are. And you know what I found out?" She paused for effect. "Nothing? You're nobody. No money. No connections. No friends. Just some girl from Brooklyn who thinks she's tough because she doesn't talk." Courtney giggled behind her phone. Bethany nodded like everything Tiffany said was gospel. Kaisha tilted her head slightly. "Are you done?" she asked calmly. Tiffany's smile flickered. "Just for a second." But Kaisha caught it. You think you're smart? Tiffany said quietly. But trust me, you're not smarter than me. And if you keep acting like you're better than everyone, I'm going to make your life here very difficult. Keisha looked at her for a long moment. Then she said something that surprised even herself. Tiffany, I don't think I'm better than anyone. I just want to go to school, get my grades, and go home. That's it. I'm not your enemy. But if you keep coming at me, I'm not going to just disappear. I'm going to be here every single day. So maybe we can just leave each other alone? The hallway was silent. A few students nearby had stopped to watch. Tiffany's face went through about 5 different emotions: shock, anger, confusion, and something else. Something that almost looked like fear, but she covered it quickly. Whatever, she said, flipping her hair. Just stay out of my way. She turned and walked off, her friends following behind her. Keisha let out a slow breath. Her heart was beating fast, but her face stayed calm. She picked up her bag and walked to class like nothing happened, but she knew this was far from over. That night, Keisha sat at her desk with her notebook open. She wrote down everything. The date, the time, what Tiffany said, who was there. She even described Courtney holding up her phone, probably recording the whole thing. Her mother knocked on the door and came in. Still writing in that notebook? Denise asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. You told me to document everything, Keisha said without looking up. So that's what I'm doing. Denise watched her daughter for a moment. There was pride in her eyes, but also concern. Baby, I want you to be smart about this. But I also don't want you carrying this weight alone. If things get bad, you need to tell someone. A teacher. A counselor, me. Keisha finally looked up. I know, Mom, but right now, nothing has happened that I can actually report. They haven't touched me. They haven't threatened me directly. It's all just words and looks and little comments. If I go to a teacher now, they'll say I'm overreacting. And then Tiffany will know she got to me. Denise sighed. She knew her daughter was right. She had dealt with people like Tiffany her whole life. In school, in the workplace, everywhere, people who knew exactly how to hurt you without leaving a mark. Just promise me, Denise said, that if it crosses a line, you'll come to me. Keisha nodded. I promise. Over the next week, Tiffany changed her strategy. She stopped confronting Keisha directly. Instead, she started spreading rumors. It started with whispers. Then it became louder. Did you hear? Keisha got kicked out of her last school for fighting. I heard her mom is like barely keeping them off the streets. Someone said she stole stuff from a store back in Brooklyn. None of it was true. Not a single word. But that did not matter. The rumors spread like fire. And soon, people who had never even talked to Keisha were looking at her differently. Some avoided her. Others laughed when she walked by. A few boys made jokes about her clothes, her hair, her voice. Keisha kept her head up. She did not react. She did not cry. She did not give them the satisfaction, but it was getting harder. One day in the bathroom, she stood at the sink washing her hands. She looked at herself in the mirror. She looked tired. Not physically, but in her soul. Tired of pretending everything was fine. Tired of being strong every single second of every single day. A tear rolled down her cheek before she could stop it. She wiped it away quickly and took a deep breath. No, she was not going to break. Not here. Not because of them. She splashed water on her face, dried off, and walked out with her shoulders straight. That afternoon, something new happened. Keisha was sitting in the library during her free period, working on a sketch. A girl she had seen around but never spoken to walked over and sat down across from her. Hey, the girl said quietly. I'm Nina. Keisha looked up, surprised. Hi, Nina glanced around like she was making sure no one was watching. I just wanted to say, I see what they're doing to you. Tiffany and her crew. And I think it's messed up. Keisha studied her for a moment. Why are you telling me this? Nina looked down at her hands. Because she did the same thing to me last year. Spread rumors. Turned people against me. Made my life miserable. I didn't fight back. I just let it happen. And by the end of the year, I had no friends and almost failed all my classes because I couldn't focus on anything. Kaisha felt something shift inside her. I'm sorry that happened to you, she said softly. Nina shook her head. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because I don't want the same thing to happen to you. Tiffany seems powerful, but she's not untouchable. She just makes people believe she is. Kaisha leaned forward. What do you mean? Nina looked around again, then lowered her voice. There's a school assembly next month. A big one. And I heard Tiffany is planning something for you. Something public. Something meant to embarrass you in front of everyone. Kaisha's stomach tightened. But her face stayed calm. Do you know what it is? She asked. Not yet, Nina said. But I can find out. If you want me to? Kaisha looked at this girl. This stranger who had no reason to help her. This person who had been hurt just like her and still had the courage to reach out. Why would you do that for me? Kaisha asked. Nina smiled, but there was sadness behind it. Because I wish someone had done it for me, Kaisha nodded slowly. Okay, she said. Find out what you can. And I'll figure out what to do next. That night, Kaisha opened her notebook and wrote down everything Nina told her. Then she stared at the page for a long time. Tiffany was planning something big. Something designed to destroy her in front of the whole school. But Kaisha was not going to just sit there and wait for it to happen. If Tiffany wanted a battle, she was about to learn that she had picked the wrong girl to fight. The days leading up to the assembly felt like a countdown to something Kaisha could not yet see. But she refused to sit around and wait for disaster. She had a plan of her own forming in her mind. She just needed more information. Nina became her eyes and ears. The two of them started meeting in the library during lunch, away from Tiffany and her crew. Nina was quiet and careful. She knew how to blend into the background, how to listen without being noticed. And that made her the perfect person for this job. 1 week before the assembly, Nina slid into the seat across from Kaisha with a serious look on her face. I found out what she's planning, Nina whispered. Kaisha put down her pencil and leaned in. Tell me everything. Nina took a breath. Okay. So, Tiffany's been working with this guy named Derek. He's in the AV club. He controls all the tech stuff during assemblies. The microphones, the projector, the screens, everything. Kaisha nodded slowly. Go on. Tiffany made some kind of video. I don't know exactly what's in it, but from what I heard, it's supposed to be embarrassing, like really embarrassing. She's going to have Derek play it on the big screen during the assembly, in front of the whole school. Kaisha felt her stomach drop. But she kept her face calm. Do you know what's in the video? She asked. Nina shook her head. No, but I heard her talking to Courtney about it. She said something like, by the time this is over, she won't be able to show her face here again. Kaisha sat back in her chair. Her mind was racing. She thought about all the times Courtney had her phone out recording. All those moments in the hallway, in the cafeteria. Near her locker, they had been collecting footage. Probably editing it. Twisting things to make her look bad. There's more, Nina said quietly. Kaisha looked at her. Right before the video plays, Tiffany is going to get up on stage and say something. Like an introduction? She told Bethany she's going to make it look like she's welcoming you to the school. Like she's being nice, and then boom. The video hits and everyone laughs. Kaisha closed her eyes for a moment. She could picture it perfectly, the whole school watching. Tiffany standing on stage with that fake smile. And then whatever horrible video they made playing for everyone to see. It was designed to humiliate her, to break her, to make her want to disappear. But Kaisha was not going to disappear. She opened her eyes and looked at Nina. I need to get to that flash drive, she said. Nina blinked. What? The video. It's probably on a flash drive, right? That's how Derek would play it. I need to switch it out before the assembly. Nina looked nervous. Kaisha, that's risky. If you get caught? I won't get caught, Kaisha said firmly, but I need your help. Can you find out where Derek keeps it, or when he sets up the equipment? Nina hesitated. Kaisha could see the fear in her eyes. This girl had already been through so much. She had every reason to walk away and protect herself, but then Nina nodded. Okay, she said. I'll find out. Over the next few days, Nina did exactly what she promised. She watched, she listened. She paid attention to every detail. She learned that Derek always set up the AV equipment the morning of any assembly. He would arrive early, test everything, and leave the flash drive plugged into the laptop behind the stage curtain. She also learned that Tiffany had given Derek the flash drive 2 days before the assembly. He kept it in his backpack until the day of. Keisha now had all the information she needed. But she still had one problem. She needed something to replace the video with. That night, Keisha sat in her room thinking. She could just switch the flash drive with a blank one. The video would not play, and Tiffany's plan would fail, but that was not enough. Tiffany had spent weeks trying to destroy her, spreading lies, turning people against her, planning this public humiliation. If Keisha just stopped the video, Tiffany would try again. She would find another way to hurt her. No, Keisha needed to end this once and for all. She needed to show everyone who Tiffany really was. And then she remembered her notebook. She had been documenting everything from the very first day, every insult, every rumor, every moment of harassment. She even wrote down things she overheard Tiffany saying about other students, but documentation was not enough. She needed proof. Real proof? Keisha pulled out her phone and started scrolling. She had screenshots, messages that people had forwarded to her, cruel texts from Tiffany's group chat that someone had leaked weeks ago. She also remembered something else. A video that had gone around the school last year. A video of Tiffany and her friends mocking a freshman girl behind her back. The video had been taken down quickly, but Keisha had saved it. Just in case, she spent the entire night putting everything together. Screenshots. The old video, text messages, voice recordings that Nina had secretly captured during some of Tiffany's conversations. By the time she was done, Keisha had created her own video, a compilation of everything Tiffany had done. Not just to her, but to others. All the proof laid out clearly for everyone to see. She saved it to a flash drive and held it in her hand. This was it. Her one chance to turn the tables. The morning of the assembly, Keisha woke up before her alarm. She got dressed slowly, her heart beating steady but strong. She looked at herself in the mirror and took a deep breath. You got this, she whispered to herself. At school, everything felt different. The hallways were buzzing with energy. Students were excited about the assembly. It was supposed to feature performances, awards, and announcements. A big event before the end of the semester. Nobody knew what was really about to happen. Keisha spotted Nina near the lockers. They exchanged a quick look. Nina gave a small nod. Everything was in place. During first period, Keisha asked to use the bathroom. She walked calmly through the empty hallway and slipped backstage through a side door that Nina had told her about. The AV setup was exactly where Nina said it would be. A laptop on a small table, wires running to the projector. And right there, plugged into the side of the laptop, was a flash drive. Keisha's hands were steady as she pulled out Tiffany's flash drive and replaced it. With her own, she slipped the original into her pocket and walked out the same way she came in. No one saw her. No one suspected a thing. By the time the assembly started, Keisha was sitting in the middle of the auditorium with the rest of her class. Her heart was pounding now, but she kept her face neutral. The principal gave a welcome speech. A few students performed a song. Awards were handed out, and then Tiffany walked up to the stage. She was wearing her best outfit. Her hair was perfect. Her smile was wide and confident. Hey, everyone, Tiffany said into the microphone. Before we continue, I just wanted to take a moment to give a special shout-out to one of our newest students. She looked directly at Keisha. Keisha Williams. Stand up, girl. Let's welcome her properly. A few students clapped awkwardly. Keisha did not stand. She just looked at Tiffany and waited. Tiffany's smile grew wider. We made a little video to show how much we appreciate having you here. She turned to the side of the stage and gave a thumbs up. The lights dimmed. The screen behind her flickered to life. Tiffany turned around to watch, her face full of anticipation. But what played on that screen was not what she expected, and the moment she realized it, Her entire world came crashing down. The auditorium was dead silent as the screen came to life. 800 students sat in their seats, eyes fixed on the massive display behind Tiffany Price. Tiffany stood there with her back to the screen, still smiling at the crowd. She was waiting for the laughter, waiting for the gasps, waiting for Kaisha's humiliation to begin, but something was wrong. The crowd was not laughing. They were not pointing at Kaisha. Instead, their faces were frozen in shock. Some had their mouths hanging open. Others were already pulling out their phones to record. Tiffany's smile started to fade. She turned around slowly to see what everyone was looking at, and her heart stopped. On the screen was not the video she had made. It was something else entirely. It was her. The first clip showed Tiffany in the hallway with Courtney and Bethany. The audio was clear as day. "She thinks she can just walk in here and act like she belongs," Tiffany was saying on screen. "She's trash, absolute trash. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows it." A ripple of whispers went through the auditorium. Tiffany's face went pale. She spun around and started waving her arms at the AV booth. "Turn it off!" she screamed. "Derek, turn it off right now!" But Derek was frozen. He was staring at the screen like everyone else, completely confused about what was happening. The video continued. The next clip was a screenshot of a group chat. Tiffany's name was right there at the top. The messages were brutal. "Let's make her cry tomorrow. I bet she can't even afford real shampoo." Someone said her mom works like 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. Pathetic. The whispers in the crowd grew louder. Students were reading the messages out loud to each other. Some were shaking their heads in disbelief. Kaisha sat perfectly still in her seat. Her face showed nothing. But inside, her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. This was it. This was everything she had been preparing for. On the screen, another clip began to play. This one was older. It showed Tiffany and her friends in the bathroom last year, making fun of a freshman girl who was crying in one of the stalls. "Oh my God, is she seriously crying right now?" Tiffany's voice rang out through the speakers. "What a baby. She's so pathetic. I can't believe she even goes to this school." The camera shook as someone laughed behind it. You could hear the girl in the stall sobbing quietly. The auditorium erupted. Students started shouting. Some were booing. Others were yelling Tiffany's name with anger in their voices. A few teachers jumped up from their seats and started moving toward the stage. Tiffany was frozen. She looked out at the crowd, and for the first time in her life, she saw something she had never seen before. Everyone was looking at her the way she used to make others feel, like she was small, like she was nothing. "This isn't real," Tiffany shouted into the microphone. "Someone faked this." "This is fake," but nobody believed her. The videos were too clear. The messages had her name on them. There was no way to deny it. One of the teachers finally reached the AV booth and pulled the plug. The screen went black, but the damage was already done. Principal Warren rushed onto the stage and grabbed the microphone from Tiffany's shaking hands. "Everyone, please remain calm," he said, his voice tense. "Students, stay in your seats. Tiffany, come with me, now." Tiffany looked like she was about to collapse. Her face was red. Tears were starting to form in her eyes. Courtney and Bethany were nowhere to be seen. They had already slipped out of the auditorium, trying to distance themselves from the disaster. As Tiffany was led off the stage by Principal Warren, she looked out into the crowd one last time. Her eyes found Kaisha. And in that moment she knew. Kaisha did not smile. She did not gloat. She simply looked back at Tiffany with calm, steady eyes. That look said everything. "You came for me. And I came back harder." The assembly was dismissed early. Students poured out of the auditorium buzzing with energy. Everyone was talking about what just happened. Phones were out everywhere as people shared clips they had recorded. Within an hour, the videos were all over social media. Kaisha walked through the hallway quietly, keeping her head down. She was not looking for attention. She was not trying to celebrate. She just wanted to get through the rest of the day, but people noticed her. A boy she had never spoken to walked up to her and nodded. "That was crazy," he said. "Respect." A group of girls near the lockers gave her small smiles as she passed. One of them said, "She had it coming." Even some of the teachers looked at her differently. Not with suspicion, but with something that almost looked like quiet approval. Nina found Keisha near the back stairwell during lunch. "Oh my God," Nina said, grabbing her arm. "That was insane. I can't believe it actually worked." Keisha let out a breath she felt like she had been holding for weeks. "Yeah," she said quietly. "Me neither." Nina looked at her with wide eyes. "Were you scared when the video started playing?" Keisha thought about it for a moment. "No," she said honestly. "I wasn't scared. I was ready. I've been ready since the first day she came at me." Nina shook her head in amazement. "You're different, you know that? Most people would have crumbled. But you just sat there like nothing could touch you." Keisha smiled slightly. "My mom taught me that. She always said, don't let people see you break. If you stay calm, you stay in control." That afternoon, Keisha was called to the principal's office. She walked in and sat down across from Principal Warren. He looked tired. The day had clearly taken a toll on him. "Keisha," he began slowly, "I need to ask you something. And I need you to be honest with me." She nodded. "Did you have anything to do with what happened at the assembly today?" Keisha looked him directly in the eyes. "I switched the flash drive," she said simply. "The video Tiffany planned to show was meant to humiliate me. I replaced it with the truth." Principal Warren leaned back in his chair and sighed. "You know that accessing the AV equipment without permission is against school rules." "I know," Keisha said. "But spreading lies, bullying students, and planning public humiliation is also against school rules. And nobody did anything to stop it." The room was silent for a long moment. Principal Warren rubbed his forehead. "The content in that video," he said carefully. "Where did you get it?" "Screenshots that were sent to me by other students. Old videos that had already been shared around school. Voice recordings that other people made. I didn't create anything. I just collected what was already out there." He studied her face. "You documented everything, didn't you?" Keisha nodded. "From the first day." Principal Warren was quiet again. Then slowly he nodded. "I'm not going to pretend that what you did was entirely appropriate," he said. "But I also can't ignore the fact that Tiffany and her friends have been engaging in serious harassment. This is going to be investigated thoroughly." Keisha did not respond. She just waited. "You can go back to class," he said finally. "But Keisha, next time, come to us first. Let us handle it." Keisha stood up and walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the handle. "With all due respect, sir," she said quietly, "I tried to handle things the right way. Nobody listened. So I handled it myself." She walked out without looking back. That evening, Keisha sat on her bed with her notebook in her lap. She flipped through the pages filled with dates, names, and details. Weeks of documentation. Weeks of staying calm when she wanted to scream. It was finally over. Her phone buzzed. A message from Nina. "You did it. You actually did it." Keisha smiled and typed back, "We did it." She closed the notebook and set it on her desk. Then she lay back on her bed and stared at the ceiling. Tomorrow would be different. She did not know exactly how. But she knew one thing for certain. She was no longer the girl people could push around, and everyone at Ridgemont High finally knew it too. The fallout from the assembly was immediate, and it was massive. By the next morning, the videos had spread far beyond the walls of Ridgemont High. Parents saw them. Local news picked up the story. People in town were talking about nothing else. Tiffany Price, the girl who had ruled the school for years, was now the most hated person in the entire district. The school board launched a full investigation. They pulled Tiffany, Courtney, and Bethany out of classes and interviewed them separately. They also interviewed dozens of other students who came forward with their own stories, and there were a lot of stories. It turned out that Keisha was not the only one Tiffany had targeted over the years. She was just the only one who fought back, one by one. Students who had been too scared to speak up started sharing what they had been through. A sophomore girl talked about how Tiffany spread rumors that destroyed her friendships. A junior boy admitted that Tiffany's crew had mocked him so badly that he begged his parents to let him transfer schools. A freshman said she had cried herself to sleep for months. Because of things Tiffany posted online about her. The stories kept coming. And with each one, the picture became clearer that Tiffany had built her throne on the pain of others. And now that throne was crumbling. 3 days after the assembly, the school announced its decision. Tiffany Price was suspended for the rest of the semester. Courtney and Bethany received 2-week suspensions for their involvement. All three were required to attend counseling and complete a program on bullying awareness before they could return, but the consequences did not stop there. Tiffany's parents tried to fight back. They threatened to sue the school. They even talked about pressing charges against whoever had switched the flash drive. But when their lawyer saw the evidence of what Tiffany had done, he advised them to back off. "You don't want this going to court," he told them. "Your daughter is on video harassing multiple students. If anything, those families could come after you." The threats disappeared after that. Meanwhile, something unexpected started happening at school. People wanted to talk to Kaisha, not to gossip, not to use her for clout. They genuinely wanted to know her, to sit with her at lunch, to hear her story. At first, Kaisha did not know how to handle it. She had spent so long being invisible, keeping her head down, protecting herself. Now suddenly everyone wanted to be her friend, but she was careful. She did not let the attention change her. She stayed humble. She stayed grounded. She remembered what her mother always told her. Success and failure are both tests. Don't let either one define who you are. Nina became her closest friend. The two of them sat together every day now, no longer hiding in the back of the library. They laughed. They talked about life. They made plans for the summer, for the first time since moving to this town. Kaisha felt like she actually belonged somewhere. One afternoon, about 2 weeks after the assembly, Kaisha was walking through the hallway when a small voice stopped her. "Excuse me?" She turned around. A freshman girl was standing there, clutching her books to her chest like a shield. She looked nervous. "Scared even? Are you Kaisha?" The girl asked quietly. "Yeah, what's up?" The girl looked down at her shoes. I wanted to ask you something, if that's okay." Kaisha leaned against the lockers and gave her full attention. "Go ahead." The girl took a shaky breath. "There's this group of girls in my grade. They've been saying stuff about me, posting things online, making fun of the way I dress and talk. I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm going crazy." Kaisha felt her heart tighten. She knew that feeling all too well. "Have you told anyone?" she asked gently. The girl shook her head. "No, I'm scared it'll just make things worse. And I don't have any proof. It's just their word against mine." Kaisha was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small notebook. It was a fresh one. She had bought it just a few days ago. "Here," she said, handing it to the girl. The girl looked confused. "What's this for?" "Every time something happens, you write it down. The date, the time, what they said, who was there. If you get screenshots, save them. If someone sends you a message, don't delete it. You collect everything." The girl stared at the notebook like it was some kind of lifeline. "But what do I do with it?" she asked. Kaisha looked her in the eyes. "You wait. You stay calm. You don't react. And when you have enough, you take it to someone who can help. A teacher. A counselor. Your parents. But you go in with evidence, not just emotions. That's how you win." The girl nodded slowly, gripping the notebook tightly. "Is that what you did?" she asked. Kaisha smiled a little. "Yeah, that's exactly what I did." The girl looked at her with something that almost looked like hope. "Thank you," she whispered. "Really, thank you." She walked away, holding that notebook like it was the most valuable thing she owned. Kaisha watched her go and felt something warm spread through her chest. Maybe that was the real victory. Not the assembly, not watching Tiffany fall, but this, helping someone else find their strength. That evening, Kaisha sat on the porch with her mother. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It was peaceful, quiet. Denise looked at her daughter and smiled. "You've had quite a year, baby girl." Kaisha laughed softly. "Yeah, you could say that. I'm proud of you, Denise said. Not because of what happened at that assembly, But because of how you handled yourself through all of it, you stayed true to who you are. You didn't let them turn you into something you're not. Keisha looked out at the sky. There were moments I wanted to give up, she admitted. Moments I wanted to scream or cry or just disappear. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Denise reached over and took her daughter's hand. That's strength, baby. Real strength isn't about never feeling weak. It's about feeling weak and choosing to stand anyway. Keisha squeezed her mother's hand and felt tears prick at her eyes. But they were not sad tears. They were the kind of tears that come when you finally let go of something heavy you have been carrying for too long. I love you. Mom, she said quietly. I love you too? Sweetheart, always. They sat there together as the sun disappeared below the horizon. Mother and daughter, survivors both on the last day of the school year. Keisha walked through the halls of Ridgemont High one final time. The place looked the same as it did on her first day. Same lockers, same classrooms, same trophy cases, but everything felt different now. She passed by the cafeteria and remembered that first lunch. The click of Tiffany's heels, the confrontation. The moment everything started, she smiled to herself, that scared, quiet girl who just wanted to be invisible. She was still in there somewhere, but she had grown. She had evolved. She had become someone who knew her own worth and refused to let anyone take it from her. As she stepped outside into the warm summer air, Nina was waiting for her by the parking lot. Ready for summer? Nina asked with a grin. Keisha took a deep breath and looked back at the school one last time. Yeah, she said. I'm ready for everything. They walked off together, laughing about something silly, two girls who had found friendship in the middle of chaos. Behind them, Ridgemont High stood quiet and still. The halls that had once felt like a battlefield were now just halls. The memories of pain were fading, replaced by something better. Hope, growth, and the knowledge that no matter what life throws at you, you have the power to rise above it. Keisha Williams came to this school as a nobody. She left as someone who would never be forgotten. And that made all the difference.